this could be a new can of worms. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel where today I am doing the Eyeshadow Palette Tag 5000. I have seen this going around YouTube a little bit in the last 2 weeks or so. I watched Anielka Nyqvist's video and then I watched Rachel Palmieri's video. Both of those are linked down below in the description box if you're curious to see them as well. And I just love talking about eyeshadow palettes. I really could do it for, quite a long time. So that is what today's video is going to be about. If you're interested, just keep on watching. I didn't get a chance to film today's eyeshadow look. I do apologize. I think it is so pretty. So pretty. But it will be featured in my next While I Was Out series, which is where I talk about eyeshadow looks that I wasn't able to film, but I want to share with you anyway. Okay, let's dive into this Eyeshadow Palette Tag 5000. I will also in the description box link the original creator of this tag. I don't remember the name of that channel, but it'll be below. And I'm also going to list all the questions if you want to do this tag video yourself. Please tag me in it if you do, because I love watching tag videos and I love eyeshadow palettes. So, it's really just a win-win situation, right? The first prompt is a palette you wore on a special occasion. I've only been into eyeshadow for about 2 years at this point. I guess we're coming up on 2.5, closer to 3. But I haven't had that many really special occasions in my life that might warrant wearing eyeshadow. I went to a few weddings, but they were out of state, and I don't even remember if I packed makeup. I don't know. The one that I can think of right off the top of my head is when I had a big concert in April. I was a vocalist in the finals of a competition. All of the finalists got to perform on stage with a full symphony orchestra and several visiting Broadway and off-Broadway singers. It was an amazing experience. I will card one of those videos. I think I made 3 videos. I'll card the final one above for you where I talk about the concert itself and I show you some pictures. The eyeshadow that I put on for that concert was actually a lot more neutral than I usually do. I first used the Nouveau palette from Anastasia Beverly Hills, and I just used the mattes and did sort of a neutral outer corner and deepened my crease a little bit. And then I used the Plain Jane palette from Adept Cosmetics to put some very bright, super sparkly glitter on my eyes. This formula is so stunning. You get the most intense sparkle. It's not wet or hyper metallic. It's not like a lot of the indie shimmers that we see nowadays, but it's extraordinarily sparkly, so glittery, but not a glitter formula. It's amazing. Anyway, these are the 2 palettes that I used for that look because I wanted something that was really sparkly but not so heavy. The stage lights can cast weird shadows, and I didn't want to have really heavy eyeshadow on because I thought it might look weird from stage. Now, I did completely forget about stage makeup. I was actually the least made up person on stage that night because the other finalists all had contouring and blush and lipstick, and I had a very plain face all in all. But anyway, these are the palettes that I used for a special occasion. Number 2, what is a palette you love but is repetitive? I pulled out the Mimosa palette from BH Cosmetics for this one. I think this palette is very good quality, and I say every time that I talk about it, I really am keeping it for the quality and for the shimmers, and if I really want a true pink shadow. It's got a great white matte, a nice yellow matte. It does have some fun colors, but it needs more. This palette is not complete for me if I really want to do a Rachel look, which generally has a good bit of contrast. I wish it had some more depth. I wish it had some really nice light pastels, and I wish it had more red or berry tones. Just something to round it out a little bit more. Overall, it's a good palette. I think it needs a little bit more. This next prompt made me smile. A palette where you got your money's worth. Okay, that could be tricky for a lot of our larger collections because sometimes it's a revolving door. You bring some stuff in, you play with it for a while, then you pass it on and bring something new in. And that's not always the healthiest of habits, honestly. I've gotten to the point where I'm better now at looking at a product and saying, it's pretty, but I'm not going to use it, or it won't get as much use as it should, enough use to justify the money. Anyway, the Wilderness palette from Beauty Bay is a palette that I bought very early on. Like many of Beauty Bay's 20-pan palettes, it was here and then it was gone. And it's rather highly sought after. This is a fabulous palette. I think it's probably the most used palette in my collection at this point. I would say maybe the Flare palette from Ace Beauté, but technically I bought that palette in the new formula. So my old one would have been one of my most used, but the new one hasn't gotten as much use because it's brand new. Anyway, this I think is the most used palette in my collection. I have definitely gotten my money's worth from this. What was it, $18, maybe 20? It is so good. I love the formula. I love the color story. I love the range. You can get so many different looks from this palette. I'm always excited when I go into it because I know that I have the ability to create something quite different from anything I've done before. And this palette is just very inspiring to me, and it's great formula, and it's nice packaging. I'm finding that packaging really makes a difference for me. For example, the BH Cosmetics Say It collection. fabulous quality, fabulous. But I hate the packaging. It's just really kind of unattractive. Like they didn't put any effort into that packaging at all. And I feel that this is the opposite. This is nice packaging. The colors and the format and everything, it works with the theme. It just goes together well. It's kind of a pleasure to dip into. I've definitely gotten my money's worth out of this palette. So what is a palette in my collection that I believe is an amazing deal? I thought about pulling a Cosmic Brushes palette, but if you're within the US, you have to pay for shipping, and shipping's not the cheapest internationally, no matter what brand you're buying from. For the purposes of myself and probably most of my viewers, I decided to choose a brand that you could get here in the US without having to, you know, have something shipped across the oceans. And I chose Glamlite. Here's the Dirty Martini palette. This is my favorite green palette. I think this is fabulous. I really enjoy Glamlite's quality and the formula. It's just very easy to work with. I think I prefer Glamlite to Beauty Bay, although they are very similar because Beauty Bay doesn't build very well, but Glamlite does. You can lay down a lighter color and then build the darker colors on top of it, whereas with Beauty Bay, you have to start with dark and work from there. It's a nuance, really. It's a matter of how you like to do your eyeshadow. Anyway, the Glamlite formula is very good. It's super easy to work with. It's really, really pigmented. They have a nice formula. The shimmers are very sparkly. There's just great color payoff, and they're smooth, they're creamy, they're fun to work with. You get really lovely looks from the Glamlite formula. I think this is quite affordable. I don't remember the retail price, but I think it was, for sure it was under $20. It might have been under $15. I don't recall exactly. I just know Glamlite is a very affordable brand, and they're US based, and this is a fabulous palette. This next one wants to know, what is a quad that you love and wish for a larger palette? The only quad I own is this one. This is something that my sister had custom made for me from MAC Cosmetics. I think it's really lovely. I recently used it. I don't remember if I filmed that video or not. I don't think I did. I think that also is going to be part of a While I Was Out feature. But anyway, it's a beautiful palette. I enjoyed the MAC formula. It's not quite the same performance and texture as a lot of the really popular indie brands right now, but I think it's better than a lot of the more mainstream, larger brands. It's better, in my opinion, than what I've experienced with Sigma. I think the quality is good. It's really good, and these are really nice colors, very soft and autumnal. If I were to say I wish it were larger, I would say maybe a 9 or 12 pan and just round out these colors a bit more. Maybe have 1 or 2 really deep shades, 1 or 2 lighter, more pink or red-based mid-tone or light mattes, and then a couple other shimmers. I think purpley shimmer would be pretty. If we could get a soft champagne shimmer with a white or pink base, or maybe a duo or multi-chrome, orange or bronze and ivory, it would be fun. I never really thought about that, actually, so that's kind of a fun question. This is the only quad I own, though, so it has to be this one. Okay, love the quality of the eyeshadow, hate the packaging. Can you guess? Can anyone guess? If you've been here in the last year or so, you might be able to guess. Age of Opulence from Beauty Bay. This is a great palette. To me, this is New Year's Eve in a palette. Look at these colors. They're so saturated. They're so deep and moody and vibrant, and the color payoff is amazing. It's great eyeshadow. It really is. And because this one, like I talked about Beauty Bay not building very well, this palette is not a problem because there are no light shades. You have what, 1, 2 light shades. Everything else is quite deep. It really is a great palette. I don't like the packaging. I really don't. It says, take center stage and celebrate lavishly with the Age of Opulence eyeshadow palette. Inspired by glamour, decadence, and the new roaring 20s. This packaging does not make me think of glamour or decadence. It looks kind of tacky. I just don't like it at all. I think it's hideous. I think it's tacky and really unappealing. And this is one of those, experiences where I want to use the palette a little bit less because the packaging is just, don't really care for it. But then I remember the colors inside, and whenever I want these shades, I know where to go. The 7th prompt says, show your dream palette with singles. I can't do that because I don't own any singles at all. I did for a short time own a small Z palette with like 7 singles in it. A couple I had bought from ColourPop as singles, never used them, not even once. And then a couple had fallen out of broken palettes, never used them once they were in the Z palette, not even once. When I sold some ColourPop palettes, I threw it in as a freebie with the order, but I don't use singles. I was recently looking at the Sydney Grace website because I have fallen head over heels in love with their eyeshadows, and they sell all of their colors in singles, and they have some really beautiful singles. And I was thinking, this could be a new can of worms. I could see myself buying Z palettes and buying all the pretty singles and making my own eyeshadow palettes. And as soon as I realized that I was tempted to do that, I knew that it was a bad idea. Like, no, you're already invested. You're already involved in this hobby, and that's great. You already have a lovely collection of beautifully curated eyeshadow palettes, which you love and you enjoy and you use all the time. Literally 5 days a week I'm putting on eyeshadow. And I enjoy and appreciate the beautiful packaging. And I think that's the biggest thing. If I had a collection of singles, it would be really fun to move them around and build my own palettes. But at the same time, I think I wouldn't enjoy using them as much as going to my collection and pulling out a beautifully curated and beautifully packaged eyeshadow palette where the theme of the palette and the design and the artwork, everything all works together with the colors inside. I really enjoy that experience. And I think that having singles, I wouldn't get that experience because they would just be in a Z palette. And while that would be really fun and could be, honestly, in a way it could be money saving because you could dupe the vibes of new releases. But you would have to own a ton of shadows to accurately dupe those vibes. And that's not money saving. So the next prompt is asking, what are some palettes that you like to combine together? And I'll be honest with you, I combine lots of palettes all the time. I really enjoy broadening my creative horizons by taking two palettes that you wouldn't think work together and seeing what I can do with them, or specifically thinking, I want to work with this shimmer and this matte. How can I meet them in the middle and make a beautiful eye look? That is so much of the fun, the creative joy of this hobby for me. I am always pairing palettes together. I will say, because this Plain Jane palette from Adept Cosmetics is an all shimmer palette, and I totally neglected to show it to you before, I'm sorry. Here is the original Plain Jane palette. This was given to me by a very kind subscriber. I love using this palette. I often pair this palette with the more neutral palettes in my collection. So a prime example would be the Nouveau palette from Anastasia Beverly Hills. Like I said, I used that combination for my concert look. This is the Nouveau palette. This is lovely, and I often do looks with just this palette without pulling in anything extra. But if I want the next level of shine, actually it's like 4 levels up when it comes to shine and sparkle, then I'll bring in the Plain Jane palette. I also pair it with the Limoncello palette from ColourPop, Strawberry Feels from Jaclyn Cosmetics. So when I have a palette in my collection which is more neutral heavy, and honestly it might just be those 3, I don't have many neutral palettes, I love to bring in the Plain Jane sparkles because it takes what I may consider to be a more soft or nuanced look and blows it out of the water. What is a large palette that I wish was smaller? For this, I pulled the original Michaela palette when she collaborated with Glamlight. I have always said that I don't care for very big palettes. This is even too many shadows for me. I prefer like 12 to 16 pan range and not really much bigger than that. I have this one. I also have the Pot 2. I have a couple larger palettes, but this is one that I have specifically said in the past, I wish it were a bit more curated. It has at least, I think, 7 purples in it. And it has 2 rows of neutrals. So I think that this easily could have been either changed significantly where we had more shade ranges for other colors and got rid of a bunch of these neutrals and a bunch of purples, or simply condensed. It could have been done smaller. We could have had maybe 5 neutrals and 3 purples, and the whole palette would have just been better. Is a nice palette, and with the Glamlight formula, it's really good. You get beautiful looks. It's fun to work with. I just wish it were a little bit smaller. And as far as the Pot 2 goes, I didn't pull that one out because I thought it would be redundant. And this one has the 2 rows of neutrals, which I think are sort of a waste, especially because they're warm-toned neutrals and the colors are so cool-toned. The Pot 2 palette has a whole row of purples, a whole row of greens, and a whole row of blues, but that is sort of the shtick of that palette, whereas this one's supposed to be the very colorful palette, and I think that in these top 2 rows they kind of lost the opportunity to make those as interesting, honestly, as the rest of the palette. The final question is, what is an eyeshadow palette you have where you wish there was a matching face palette? And I'll be totally honest with you guys, I think this question is sort of lost on me. I mean, let me show you the extent of my face products. Okay, foundation, I have this. For bronzer, I have this. For blush, I have this and a Tarte palette that is not in my bin right now, but it's a Tarte palette of 6 blushes. For highlighter, I have this. Yep, I don't think I'm missing any. That is the extent of the face products that I own, and honestly, that's kind of a lot for me. For me, it's all about the eyeshadow. If I do anything else, it is usually to enhance the eyeshadow, whether that is making my brows a little bit darker or concealing under my eyes to just brighten the eyeshadow area. It's all about the eyeshadow. I really don't care that much about face products. Today, I'm not wearing anything else on my face. I'm not wearing blush or bronzer or highlighter. I'm not even wearing a foundation. All I did was put concealer under my eyes and a little bit of face powder, which is CoverGirl Clean Professionals. I don't even know where I got this or when I got it, or, I mean, it was just a shot in the dark that I'd be picking up the thing that I needed. Okay, so a face palette I think would be totally lost on me, and I don't think that I can answer accurately. Sorry. Okay, so that wraps up my eyeshadow palette tag 5000 video. Remember to check the description box for Angie's video, Rachel's video, and the original creators' information, as well as all the questions. Again, if you do this yourself, I love tag videos and eyeshadow palettes, and this is my jam. So if you do it yourself, do please tag me in it so I can watch it, because it's a lot of fun to see how other people interpret questions and how they answer questions, and we all have different collections, and you may have stuff that I have never heard of or stuff that I just don't own, and it would be so much fun to see what you think and to look at your collection and to see what your picks are. It's a good time. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Do remember to like and subscribe if you want to see more, and I will see you guys again in the next video, which is coming soon. Bye!